He's in, Celestine.
I'm sorry.
He said he's in.
He's in. Okay.
The Zoom meeting.
Call to order the meeting of the Common Council for Tuesday, September 6th, 2025. Clerk?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. We have 10 members in the room, 2 members who are on Zoom and present and voting.
All right, thank you, Clerk. Now please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for an invocation offered by Alder DeLee. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alder
You can be
DeLee.
seated. As we gather here today, may we be mindful of the challenges behind us and focused on the path ahead. Hard times test us, but they also teach us about strength, patience, and the power of moving forward together. Let this moment be one of renewal. May we learn from what has passed, build on what we have overcome, and carry forward with purpose and clarity. Together, we have the chance to shape something better. Through respect, through understanding, and through the work of our own hands and hearts. As we begin, may we be guided not by what divides us, but by the growth that comes when we stand together.
Thank you, Alder. Well said. On to approval of the minutes. All right, motion was made by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Prophet. Alder Johnson?
Motion to amend. Was regarding item number X, and it read a little bit confusing around the first reading and then what action was taken around, I believe it was item 3, that was related to the ordinance for charging the fee for fire inspections. And I went back and watched the video, and Alder Prophet had made the motion. Alder DeLee had made the second to hold that item to September 16th. The reason that's relevant is because it's on today's agenda for a second reading. And so we would just need to amend the minutes to reflect that that item was held.
All right,
That's a motion.
Yep, Alder Johnson makes that motion to amend. Is there a second? Seconded by Alder DeLee. Any discussion on that?
I'm so sorry. I meant to do what? I did not understand.
Basically to hold, the item was supposed to be held rather than advanced.
And that's item what? It's
Item X in the minutes.
in,
Yep.
in the minutes.
In the minutes. And then we'll deal with it on the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So we have an amendment and a second. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the minutes will be amended. Entertain a motion to approve as amended. Motion to approve as amended, made by Alder Ritterbusch, seconded by Alder Hinkfist. Discussion on that. Alder Eck?
Oh, as amended.
Yep.
Sorry. That just want to make sure that was in there.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The minutes are approved as amended. Approval of the agenda. Alder Prophet makes a motion to approve the agenda, seconded by Alder Stevens. Alder Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. Then make a motion to move then J3 to as W5, because that would capture the motion that was made at the last meeting, and it would be present for the first reading.
Right. Yeah, that works. So that's amendment is made, seconded by Alder Prophet. Discussion on that. All right, all in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The agenda is amended. Alder Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. And this is really just a question for staff. So I was watching the Equal Rights Commission meeting, and might just be a timing overlap because they did meet, but there's nothing in the council packet. And then maybe because it's really not posted anywhere, so maybe I'll just ask here. But
I couldn't tell if there was a staff person that was present and assigned to working with them. And the reason I bring that up is because obviously that could affect the flow of information and how all that happens.
I'll address the timing real quick. I mean, to your point, they meet on Thursdays, and so it typically doesn't get wrapped up in time for it to make the agenda on Friday. So there's a little bit of a lag when it comes to equal rights. But as far as staffing is concerned, Director Olafson.
You bet. So there's a member from my staff, Andrea Fox, who attends each committee meeting.
Okay. And because I noticed, I guess, again, a lot of conversation that maybe it was more like questions of what can we do. I didn't feel like there was maybe a strong guidance from staff to help mentor in that scenario. And even at least if the roster is correct on the website, there's 9 members of the commission. But if I reduce the staff, that means there have only been 4 people at the commission meeting, and then that they didn't even have quorum. So just kind of something for staff, I guess, to contemplate is making sure that they've got the right support from staff, because obviously if we're going to have a commission, we want to make sure it's supported. Yep. So we'll do. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, and stay tuned for that. Ordinance changes potentially on membership, etc. We have an amended
Motion
agenda.
to approve is amended.
Motion to approve is amended, made by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder Prophet. All in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the agenda has been approved. Just wanted to touch on one thing on the agenda, or actually several items, but one big project. Just encouraging support for, is it fire station apartments? What are we calling it? Yes, fire station apartments. It's a great project. Obviously, collaboration between our fire department and General Capital as our private developer. Some affordable housing, significant amount of affordable housing being created, as well as a new fire station for us to benefit the citizens of Green Bay. So I know it's something that's received a lot of support already from this council, and just encouraging your support for the development agreement and some of the other associated documents that go along with it. Also, just wanted to touch on what Alder DeLee was, I think, referencing in his invocation tonight. It has been a really crazy week, tragic week in the U.S. and in the world and in our politics. And I think we're all mourning the tragic loss of life, Charlie Kirk's life, that follows on the heels of the assassination of Minnesota State Legislator Melissa Hortman, who's a former Speaker of their House of Representatives. The attempted assassination of President Trump, the firebombing of Governor Shapiro's residence. I mean, this is just stuff off the top of the head. And there have been so many more incidents, unfortunately, over the last few years. And, we can only do what we can do in this room. But I really just wanted to call all of you out as great examples of, how you can operate in politics and be a public servant and somebody who cares passionately about these issues, but does it in a really decent way, leading with care for your community and for the residents that you represent. And so just, proud to serve with you all. There's a lot of diverse opinions represented in this room, but it's really clear that we care for one another and care about this community. And so thank you for that. Announcements. Any announcements? Alder DeLee.
We have our last Grooves on the Green this Friday at Coburn Park from 6 to 8. There'll be food trucks, music by Dale Anderson of the Delta Jets. Bring a chair and come check it out. It's the last one.
I'll be there.
6 to 8.
All right. Any other announcements?
Mayor?
Yes, Alder Johnson.
I believe Alder Hinkfist wanted us to know that her phone is off tonight. So.
That is good to know. Anything else? All right, so we'll move along to appointments. Motion to approve the reappointment made by Alder Prophet and seconded by Alder Hinkfist. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
Aye.
The ayes have it. And that reappointment is made. Ordinance's second reading for adoption, noting that it's just J 1 and 2. Alder Johnson makes a motion to suspend the rules, seconded by Alder Hinkfist. This will take up both items 1 and 2 with one roll call vote. All in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Motion to adopt made by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder DeLee. Any discussion? We'll use the board.
You may vote. Alders Hutchison and Galvin, how would you like to be recorded?
Hutchison, aye.
Galvin,
Sorry.
aye.
Thank you.
All right, those are approved 12-0, or adopted rather. Report of the Redevelopment Authority. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder Presley. Any items here to be handled separately?
2 and 6.
2 and 6. Any others? Hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report will signify by saying aye. Opposed,
Aye.
nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved for the exception of items 2 and 6. On to Alder Johnson.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve made by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder Eck.
And then a motion to open the floor.
Sorry. Yes, motion to open the floor. Made by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder Eck. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the floor is open. If you could just state your name and address for us.
I will. My name is Sig Stroke-Manis, 6938 North Santa Monica Boulevard in Fox Point, Wisconsin. I'm here on behalf of General Capital. We're the developer of the Fire Station Flats apartments, evolving name.
Right.
And I'm really just here to talk about, just for 30 seconds, the amazing process that we've been through since last year. It's been an ongoing process that has taken shape and taken on different forms since we started, and we are really at the point where we have things starting to line up in their final details, and it has been only with your staff's and your, Mr. Mayor, everybody's support here to get this over the finish line. And so we're here. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have, but also just to say that it's been great to work with you. We look forward to continuing this work. We have a long road ahead to get this over the finish line. We hope to be under construction next spring, summer with this project, but this is the first step to actually close on the land and to really get the process going. So thank you, and I'm here to answer any questions tonight.
Any questions from alders? Thanks so much for
Thank
the work.
you.
Appreciate it. Anyone else on this item? Motion to close the floor made by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder DeLee. All in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the floor is closed. On the motion to approve, Alder Johnson.
Yeah, I just appreciate SIG, General Capital, through the representative as well, David Donian, for coming out. I've had the pleasure of working with SIG on some other stuff, and really talented team. We're lucky to have them looking at Green Bay, much like some other developers that we've had. We've taken a look at projects here and put shovels in the ground. Developers who do these types of developments, unfortunately, we don't have very many of them that do these types of projects that are based here locally. So when you can get folks to take interest in Green Bay, that's a positive sign. It means we're doing something really well here. But my experience with these guys is they crank really hard and work really hard on trying to solve problems and complexities around development like this, and they don't throw in the towel easily. And I know this hasn't been an easy project, and I've heard Matt say it, that this is one of the harder ones he's worked on because it is a challenging site. And yet it's a site that I think is incredibly important to our community and that TID in particular, and the way that that TID has been used to fund construction of the shipyard and making sure that we can restore a little bit of balance to that TID. This project will certainly help do that. I know you got a little bit more work to do on this, and excited to see shovels hit the ground next summer. So thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
nay. The ayes have it, and that item is approved. On to item 6. Alder Johnson.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Alder Johnson. Seconded by Alder Ritterbusch. On that,
Yeah, and I'll certainly defer to staff. I'm going to ask maybe some questions, and if you feel it needs to be in closed session, I don't feel like I need to go there. But when we obviously this needs to be done, and we have to have appropriate evidence storage. I'm looking at you, Director Bernier-Wig, only because I think you're the point of contact as opposed to the chief. But when this was first brought to us, I think the intent was that we weren't really going to have to invest in the property, and of course, we previously had an asbestos removal request, and now we've got this one here. We're probably approaching $1 million, which, when you contemplate leasehold improvements, not uncommon, especially for a long-term lease. I think if had I known then what we know now around investment, I probably would have approached this a little differently. So could you just talk us through maybe how these expenses came up and kind of what your plan is? Because I know it was written in here or it was at least talked about, to go talk to the landlord a little bit about maybe tweaking some things in a lease. So again, I don't want you to talk about anything you can't.
So my role really is to work with the lease and maybe approach the lease holder one more time to see if we could maybe work a better deal on the lease, just because we're making all these leasehold improvements that we weren't expecting. But all of the work with regards to the bids and all the work needs to be done was run through Public Works. So I can't speak to those improvements.
Okay.
Other than what you just said was really basically, we thought it was going to be just the asbestos removal, and I think the addition of a door being put into this building, but then I think some things happened which increased the cost. It changed what the project became into a larger project that needed more of a commercial code being put in place through inspection.
Okay. And I know there's one thing that I would like to see in your lease negotiation, which I will just share with you privately in the spirit of negotiation here. But Director Jusins, if you want to, I don't know if you've got any insight on how these expenses kind of came up.
Well, it kind of came up over time. So there was asbestos removal, and then as part of that removal, interior walls came down because the layout wasn't as needed for the future use. And so when that happened, then it kicked it in, as Cheryl mentioned, and they had to do upgrades to meet the code requirements. So kind of one thing led to another, and it grew in scope.
So when we approach a project like this and we're doing an analysis, and please know, this is not a pursuit for anything. If anything, I would say I'm trying to just get a little bit better understanding, because it feeds into maybe a broader future item for discussion around facilities. But I mean, who does the analysis when we're looking at this to determine what improvements might be necessary? Because I'm assuming, at least, and correct me if I'm wrong, that when we first looked at this, the assumption was that we didn't need these improvements. These were unexpected, right?
I was not involved in the history. This all started, I believe, in 2022 is when you entered into a lease. So I don't necessarily have all of the history. I believe the director at the time was working with the property owner, and I think the asbestos came through council before, and there may have been discussion on that before, which I'm not privy to all that background at this point.
Okay. Yeah, and I appreciate you're in a tough spot because you weren't part of the original engagement on this. It's just, what I'm trying to figure out is how we can be a little bit more, I guess, observe these things, right?
Right.
Because again, I don't think any of us were aware when we approved this that there were going to be an additional $1 million
Right.
Investment or requirement into this. And to your point, if this was done in 22, right, we had a 3-year ramp, and we might have made a different decision, as opposed to a lease. So,
Right.
so we go
Currently,
ahead.
we have our facilities manager involved, so now we've got a better handle on all of the different expenses. So I think that'll help us going forward.
Okay. So Director Renierweg, I'll connect with you separately.
Mhm.
And I do want to emphasize, I mean, Mayor, you made this point to me privately, and I think you're spot on, which is, the TID 21 is the funding source for this. And it is because of that project that the evidence storage had to be relocated in the first place. So I'm very comfortable with the funding source, and I just kind of wanted to reassert that. I just wish we didn't have to use it, but we need evidence storage.
Thanks, Alder Johnson. Any additional comments, questions? Seeing none. We got a motion and a second, correct? Yep. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
nay. The ayes have it, and that item has been approved. On to improvement in services. Motion to approve made by Alder DeLee, seconded by Alder Eck. Any items here to be handled separately? Four. Any others? Hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved with the exception of item 4. Wishes there, Alder Johnson?
It was a formality. I'll say motion to approve.
Motion to approve made by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder Stevens. You have the floor, Alder.
Yeah, thank you, Director Ditchak. The documents within the packet were vague. I don't know what we're approving here. All it says is construction documents. Construction documents for what?
For item 4 was to approve hiring a contractor to do the infrastructure for Triangle Hill. So what that involves is running all of the underground utilities such as electric, gas, sanitary sewer, and water. And that'll run it from the bottom of the hill up to the top of the hill. And then what we're going to do is we're going to stub it out to our existing shed that's there that houses the tube storage. And we're going to keep the snow cannons in storage in there because that's a heated building. What this will not include is the construction of a larger shed to house the tractor or the grooming equipment. That will still either have to store on site in the weather or we'll have to haul it from the park shop whenever we want to use it. So we just didn't have enough money to proceed with constructing the building itself. That's something we can always look at adding in the future. So this will work. It'll get by and it'll provide the necessary utilities for us to make snow consistently.
Okay. Thank you for that. It's again, because it didn't specify in here, so that would just be the only request I'd make for the future, right? A little more specific, but I wanted to make sure we weren't. The only other topic I'd heard brought up prior to this was the garage, and I wanted to make sure we weren't spending $461,000 on a garage. That's not the case. It's the utility work.
It's the utility work minus the garage.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Alder. There is a motion and a second. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that item has been approved. Report of the Protection and Policy Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Stevens and seconded by Alder Profit. Items here to be handled separately? Hearing none. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that report has been approved. Next up is the report of the Green Bay Police Department granting operator licenses. Motion to approve made by Alder Profit, seconded by Alder Ritterbusch. Any abstentions or names to be handled separately? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Plan Commission. Motion to approve by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Profit. Items here to be handled separately? 2. Yes. Any others? Hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report, signify by saying aye. Opposed,
Aye.
nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved with the exception of item 2. On that, Alder Profit.
Motion to approve first,
Motion to approve by Alder Profit, seconded by Alder DeLee.
and then a motion to open the floor.
Motion to open the floor made by Alder Profit and seconded by Alder Eck. All in favor say aye. Opposed,
Aye.
nay. The ayes have it. The floor is open.
Jesse Burnett, Executive Director at St. John's Ministries. 612 Stewart Street. My colleague Tony Schneider, who is the Director of Community Engagement, is here in case you have any questions that stump me. He would be very happy to answer them as well. So before you is a request to revise our conditional use permit to go from 58 women to 70 women. That is just born out of our desire to remain in compliance with city government. So our current permit allows us 58. One night last season, we peaked at 57 at that facility, and then 16 nights we had 50 plus women. And so really it's preventative. You may ask, will we regularly have 58, 59, 64, whatever women? Chances are not. We averaged over a 6-month period of time 41 women at that facility. We just simply want to be in compliance should woman 59 show up at our door, so we're not placed in a position where we would have to deny shelter to that person. And then the other request is to remove the seasonal restriction on our women's shelter. We are in the process of looking at sheltering women next off season from May 1st through April 31st. Not sure what that looks like exactly, but we recognize the growing needs around homelessness services in our community. I'm sure it's much more visible to all of you as you drive in the downtown area and perhaps in some of your districts. St. John's is committed to helping resolve the community's homelessness crisis, and we're well suited to do that at that facility. And so we're undergoing, assuming you approve this, and I'm hoping you do, that will allow us to start fundraising and planning for operating the women's shelter in some capacity next off season. Yes, this is the women's shelter. The men's shelter, we are allowed 140 men at that facility during the shelter season. We reached, I think, 122 last season, so I don't think we're in jeopardy of going beyond the 140, I hope. And then the Safe Sleep programs currently runs at the men's shelter, and currently men and women are sheltering there, and those are the most chronically homeless individuals, the most chronically vulnerable. And so typically we shelter 10 to 15 people per night in the off season, which is right now at the men's shelter. The permits are for 2 separate locations.
Any other questions? Alder Johnson?
You, Mayor. Mayor taught me something a few weeks ago that former elected officials earned the title honorable. So, Honorable Brunette.
Yeah.
I appreciate the conversation you and I have had around this. One of the things that was brought up at the Plan Commission when I rewatched the video was you weren't necessarily looking to go year round. Didn't have a plan for that, at least not yet, but wanted to be able to have that option. Could you maybe speak to whether or not you've made any progress on that concept or kind of what you're thinking broadly about that?
So most likely will not be year-round emergency shelter, and there's a lot of reasons that we have avoided doing that, not out of a lack of care or concern. It's just that we do not have many barriers to our shelter on purpose. We're the community's low barrier shelter, and so we're always encouraging forward movement, forward progress, and we don't want to be placed in a position that come, April, May, March and April, we really want our guests to move forward in life, secure housing, secure other options and opportunities. And we have not, created a lot of stipulations for you must do this to remain in shelter. You have to check all these boxes for guests that are experiencing tremendous levels of trauma, which could include violence and sexual trauma and mental health crises and drug and alcohol addiction, you name it. To put a timeline on their stay with us is very damaging to them. However, we also recognize for many of the folks in our community to have fight or flight survival mode, that's not healthy either. So if they're making good progress, March, April, and then our shelter season ends on May 1st and they're out on the streets, that really prohibits their growth towards forward movement and lasting change. So there's all sorts of shelters across the country, and we're not unique. Green Bay's not unique. These are concerns that every low barrier shelter has. At what point do you help people without enabling them? Because long-term enabling and reliance on a low barrier shelter is not ideal. And so we walk this delicate line every year. I feel very comfortable with who we are as an organization. I think it reflects the values of our community quite well, but probably not going to be a continuation of a seasonal shelter. We've identified 4 groups of women currently that we'd like to focus on serving next off season.
Okay. And I appreciate that. And you guys will obviously analyze that, and I trust your board will be a part of that decision. You know, part of the reason I asked the question is because I would love to see, you know, if this is approved, to take advantage of that opportunity to maybe even pilot something that could be replicated at the men's shelter, recognizing and acknowledging there are challenges that come with that. But I think most people here would probably agree that status quo isn't fully serving our need either. And I know you know that, but you know, just appreciate what you guys do. I think you do tremendous work. Thank you for that, Tony. We serve on the Fort Howard board together, but appreciate without you, the rest of this doesn't work. So thank you both.
Okay. Can I just add a quick comment to that? The reason why we're piloting, there's several reasons why we're piloting it at the women's shelter, but the obvious reason really for people that are familiar with our locations is it's Wellspring, which we own and operate, is on one side of the building, and Wellspring, or the women's shelter is on the other. So when we look at more 24/7 operations, that's the location to do it, as well as there's typically less women in our community in need of shelter than the men, which is counterintuitive because then you would argue, why not focus on the men? Well, the men's shelter, there's a challenge there. That's really not set up to be a 24/7. They can go to Micah Center, but Micah Center's open Monday through Friday. And so if we're looking to pilot something and to do something in a more 24/7 form or fashion, the women's shelter is the place for us to pilot to get good at that. And then we can perhaps look at the men's shelter.
Great. Any other questions? All right, Mr. Ritterbusch, Alder Ritterbusch.
I just want to thank you for your leadership, helping our community and the homeless. You know, I definitely support this, but I want to thank you and your team for, you know, stepping forward and helping the homeless population in Green Bay.
Thank you. Congratulations to you as well.
Anything else? All right. Thanks so much for your work and testimony. Appreciate it. We've got one more, Mr. Boyce, who'd like to, a couple more. Mr. Boyce submitted a form, so feel free to approach the podium. State your name and address for us.
My name is Dave Boyce. I live at 123 South Quincy Street. My property is about 10 feet to the south of the south fence of the Wellspring. And I'm one of the few people within 200 feet to get the notice and everything. So I showed up and made a lot of comments and everything. But the more I think about what's going on there, the more complex the issues are, and the more proud I am of Jesse Burnett's service to the community. And it's like you're juggling like a feather in a book in a dump truck, and you got to keep them all up in the air, you know. And I was on the original homeless task force, and I met with all the people that were concerned with Wellspring and St. John's and all that for almost a year. Every week I'd meet with the police department and everybody. And so if they're expanding 12 more people, there's different issues with parking and security of the, I would call it a campus. I would call that a campus. And lately, the fence was removed on the south part of the property. I'd like to see if they could reestablish a new chain link fence, which I'm in a position where I could donate a chain link fence for the back of the property. And there's a whole bunch of people that cut through the residences to the south of the facility because it's just wide open now, you know, and there's people in my backyard and all that. But it's part of the people that go to school and everybody just cutting through there. So I'm sure that Jesse's more than able to find a bunch of solutions a little bit at a time. You know, I'm so proud of him, and I'm pretty much the bottom line is I'm delighted to have the facility there, and it's inconvenient for me and stuff like that. But so what? You know, no pain, no gain. I mean, I've seen these women during the summer just kind of wandering around like they're stunned. You know, all of a sudden they say, "Hey, we're closing it up for the summer," and they're traumatized. I see it every day, and these changes are really going to do the community a lot of good. So I hope to see a lot of volunteers for general housekeeping outside and different things, and donations, and that's pretty much what I'd like to say. But I'm so proud of Jesse and the people that devote all their time and effort, and all the volunteers. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Boyce. We have one more.
Frank Torres, 670 Boddard. I will be brief. Really, I'm here to support this project because it protects the most vulnerable segment of an embattled community. I am a former security member of security personnel at St. John's. I've worked at the men's and the women's facility. With the men's, you know, they can get awfully rowdy, and you're making sure to keep the rules being followed while they're in the facility to make them get on their ways. With the women, the dangers are very much on the outside. There are people, you know, they do laps before we call Chief's people, and Chief comes and chases, make sure they get away. But when the shelter closes down for the summer, I also ride public transportation, and I see these women, the same ones that, you know, I was responsible for the security for, being bullied on the streets. And it is the crudest, most localized form of human trafficking you can think of, when somebody that's simply bigger than you and stronger than you says, "You're going to stand next to me, and I know you don't have anywhere else to go." So yeah, I would love for the common council to approve this expansion. It will do good. I've seen the healing first place take hand, and also as a veteran, we lost the VHRP last week because of the state. And I know this council, whether it's Washington with the Conservation Corps or Madison, you know, with other issues, I know that they always do a great job making sure to take care of their people. The most dependable form of the dependable size of government possible. So thank you so much, and I hope you have your support.
Thanks for your testimony. Anyone else on this item? Motion to close floor made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder Johnson. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. The floor is closed. Motion to approve on the floor. Any additional comments on that? Alder Prophet.
Just have one question for the director. In the report, I think it's E, compliance with all other regulations of Green Bay Municipal Code. Is there anything about fencing that would be encapsulated there? I know there was discussion at Plan Commission, but just seeking clarification since it was brought up again this evening.
I believe they're required to have a fence. And that was part of the action that was taken.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed
Aye.
nay. The ayes have it, and that item has been approved. Report of the Finance Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder Presley. Items here to be handled separately. Hearing none. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Park Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder. Sure. Computer's lagging a little bit. On Park Committee, motion to approve by Alder DeLee and a second from Alder Eck. Sounds good. So we have a motion and a second. Items here to be held separately under Park Committee. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that report has been approved. Personnel. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder Deline. Items here to be handled separately. 5. 4 and 5. Any others? Hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved with the exception of items 4 and 5. On item 4, Alder Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. The reason I pulled this, I'm good with the ordinance piece of this. One of the things after talking to a few folks afterwards, I don't think we adequately addressed sort of where the salary's at, kind of today, and if it's sort of appropriate for the level of skill that's required for this position. So the motion that I would make is I would make a motion to approve, but then refer to staff for placement on the next personnel committee agenda discussion around the base salary. Does that make sense? Because then the ordinance piece can still proceed right now.
Okay, got it. Is there a second for that? Seconded by Alder Stevens. Any comments on that, Director Rolfson?
We did in a previous personnel and council meeting have the breakdown of the study from our consultant and then also the math that got us to the final number. I don't know if that suffices or we could reintroduce that at the next personnel committee meeting as well.
Yeah, and I know we did have that conversation. Like I said, I've just had a few other folks that have kind of maybe wanted to reevaluate that piece. So I'd at least like to give that process an opportunity. And if nobody does anything with it, no harm, no foul. The ordinance still moves forward tonight. So, okay.
So there was a motion and a second. Further discussion, Alder Prophet?
I just have a question since the salary itself is called out within the ordinance. Is that is that
Because you got to have the starting base in order to do the
yes.
look back provision.
Could we
Okay, I didn't realize that was in there.
yeah, could we send it back just in its entirety for one more meeting?
It's an option.
Because we got time before the next mayoral. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Any more discussion on that, Alder Johnson?
I mean, technically there's a motion. So motion to rescind.
Well, there's a motion to approve on the floor currently.
Right. So I have to make a motion to withdraw, right?
If you'd like to, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a motion?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Okay, motion to withdraw, seconded by Alder Eck. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and that's been withdrawn.
Yeah,
Motion
just
to approve.
make a motion to refer back to committee.
All right. Alder Johnson makes a motion to refer the item back to committee, seconded by Alder Eck. Discussion on that? Seeing none. Any comments from staff?
Dead horse.
Yeah, I mean that's
I think what we'll end up doing is reintroducing the study and the math that got us to the starting salary for 2027, unless the direction is to reevaluate completely.
any comments on that?
I don't think we need a reevaluation. Exactly what you said. Gotcha.
All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That item has been referred on to item 5. Alder Grant.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a motion to amend. There's one clarifying part in it. I spoke to Attorney Kochart and she just said I'd have to amend. It's part of the process. So the only difference I want to make is keeping option 2, but that it goes to all council members, not just personnel committee members on Wednesday. And you will have till Friday at 11 to pull any position to be on the personnel agenda.
Alder Grant makes that motion to amend. That was seconded by Alder Eck. So that's essentially sending the notice to all alders. Is that?
Yeah, just instead of 4, all 12, having the opportunity.
Sounds good. All in favor of that amendment, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That item has been amended. Entertain a motion to approve as amended. So moved by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder Stevens. All in favor will say aye. Opposed,
Aye.
nay. The ayes have it, and that item has been approved as amended. Traffic, Bicycle, and Pedestrian Commission. Motion to approve by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Prophet. Items here to be handled separately. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that report has been approved. Sustainability just has informational items. Next is also informational, the August Municipal Court Report in the packet. Resolutions. Alder Johnson makes a motion to suspend the rules for items 1 through 5, allowing them to be taken up with one roll call vote. That was seconded by Alder Prophet. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Motion to adopt by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder DeLee. Any discussion? We'll use the board.
You may vote.
Alder Hutchison and Alder Galvin.
Aye.
Thank you.
Galvin votes aye.
Thank you.
All right, and those are approved 12-0. Ordinance's first reading.
Suspend the rules, items 1 through 3.
Alder Johnson makes a motion to suspend the rules on items 1 through 3. Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Eck. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
nay. The ayes have it. The rules are suspended.
Motion to advance.
Motion to advance made by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder Prophet. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and ordinances 1 through 3 have been advanced. On to 4.
Motion to hold until the next council meeting.
Alder Johnson makes a motion to hold this item until the next council meeting, seconded by Alder Prophet. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
nay. The ayes have it, and that has been held over till the next meeting. Item 5.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Motion to receive and place on file made by Alder Johnson.
It's J3 for those that didn't note that.
Right. Yes. Seconded by Alder Eck. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and that item has been received and placed on file. Petitions and communications. Adjournment. Motion to adjourn by Alder DeLee, seconded by Alder Hinkfist. All in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Never underestimate.
Recording stopped.
Sorry.
Recording in progress.
Oh, thanks. It's taken a while.
Recording stopped.
Yeah.